In a world obsessed with fame and perfection, one man takes his obsession beyond human limits. Killian Maddox, a troubled soul plagued by anger and delusions, dreams of becoming the greatest bodybuilder alive, even if it means destroying himself in the process. Every day, he wakes up in a body that aches from steroids, rage, and sleepless nights. His walls are plastered with posters of champions, men carved from marble, gods of muscle he's desperate to join among the elite. Killian takes care of his elderly grandfather, but his real focus lies on his grueling routines, swallowing a dozen eggs for breakfast, devouring slabs of meat for dinner, injecting himself with steroids, and pushing through the agony of training until his body screams for mercy. He's haunted by migraines and voices that never let him rest. Sometimes even his late mother's whispers echo in his mind. During therapy, he confessed dark thoughts, even claiming he'd like to crack open people's skulls and drink their brains like soup. Despite it all, his dream remains pure in his eyes: to meet his idol, the legendary bodybuilding star Brad Vanderhorn, and one day be admired by millions. Killian writes to him constantly, sending letter after letter, as if one reply could save him from madness. When competition day arrives, Killian's nerves get the best of him. He vomits backstage, but forces himself to smile and step into the spotlight. Under the stage lights, his massive frame trembles with pride and pain, but the judges aren't impressed. One even pushes him aside, humiliating him in front of the crowd. The rejection cuts deep. Off the stage, Killian lives a lonely existence working at a local supermarket. There, he quietly admires Jessie, a cashier whose shift never aligns with his. He tries to strike up small conversations, fumbling through his nerves. He even asks her out, then immediately backtracks, assuming she already has a boyfriend. The self-doubt devours him before he even gives her a chance to respond. In desperation for recognition, Killian records a YouTube video about himself, flexing his muscles and telling the world who he is. But halfway through filming, pain knocks him to the floor. He drags himself up to finish, only to find the internet crueler than any judge. The comments tear him apart. His anger boils over when he calls a group of painters to complain about their work. When they ignore him, Killian threatens to come down there and split their skulls open. Moments later, he's in his car, driving through the night, smashing through doors, and leaving chaos behind. He cuts himself on glass, bleeding but determined to flee. It all catches up with him when he's hospitalized after an accident. Doctors deliver a devastating diagnosis. His steroid use has pushed his body to the brink. His blood pressure is lethal, his organs are failing, and tumors have begun to grow inside his liver. They urge immediate surgery, but Killian refuses. That same night, he escapes the hospital and returns to his reckless routine. No pain, no weakness, no surrender. He eats 6,000 calories a day but still feels small, still feels unseen. Out of despair, he searches online for how to make people like him, only to find one word: smile. But Killian can't fake that anymore. At work, his mask slips completely. He spits in a customer's pie just because he doesn't like the man's face. Then one evening, fate surprises him. Jessie calls to accept his date offer. Killian cleans up, shaves, and meets her with shy laughter and awkward charm. But what starts as an innocent dinner turns painfully wrong. Trying too hard to connect, he overshares, telling her his parents' tragic story, that his father murdered his mother before turning the gun on himself. Jessie is horrified, her smile fading as Killian rambles on about bodybuilding, muscles, and his idol Brad Vanderhorn. When she slips away to the restroom, she never comes back. Killian is left alone with his food and the hollow echo of rejection. Still, he keeps writing to Brad, pouring his heart into letters no one answers. On his way to another competition, the men whose store he trashed attack him, beating him bloody. But even with broken ribs, he refuses to stop. Killian drags himself onto the stage, stripped and trembling, his skin purple with bruises. The crowd gasps, not out of awe, but horror. His body collapses under the weight of its own destruction. Later, footage of his meltdown goes viral, turning him into a laughingstock. Furious, Killian smashes every videotape, tears down his posters, and lies to everyone that his life is going perfectly. He even tells his lawyer he's dating Jessie and was featured on a magazine cover. Lies are easier than truth. His job fires him after too many complaints, his mind starts unraveling, and his obsession grows darker. When he spots one of his attackers dining peacefully with his family, Killian can't control himself. He humiliates the man in front of his kids, then storms outside, smashing a car window with his own head before the police finally subdue him. Broken, humiliated, and drowning in debt, Killian's anger turns into something else, an idea. If the world won't recognize him for his body, it will remember him for his violence. He starts ordering gun parts online, slowly building an arsenal, a rifle, a shotgun, a pistol, ammunition, piece by piece, in secret. At night, he visits clubs, posing for strangers under neon lights. By day, he practices shooting, preparing for something catastrophic. Then, out of nowhere, his idol Brad Vanderhorn calls. After years of silence, the voice Killian worshipped speaks to him, offering a meeting. When they finally meet, Killian is overwhelmed. Brad praises him, even lets him touch his abs. But moments later, Brad mocks him behind his back, and something inside Killian snaps. He begins calling Brad obsessively, begging for an explanation, leaving desperate voicemails that no one returns. His loneliness festers into violence. One night, Killian breaks into the home of a bodybuilding judge who once criticized him. Armed with a shotgun, he forces the terrified man to strip and pose like a competitor, taunting him with commands. The judge pleads for his life, but Killian walks away instead, his rage strangely empty. Later, he searches online for one final answer: how to make sure people remember me. The result? Be brave. Change history. That line becomes his mission. Killian scrawls his name on a wall. Killian Maddox was here, before packing his weapons and heading toward Brad's live show. As the champion steps on stage, Killian emerges from the crowd, rifle in hand, eyes burning with purpose. For a heartbeat, he aims, the moment he's lived and died for. But then, memories flood his mind. His parents, his younger self, his fragile grandfather. That first time he stood proudly under the lights. For the first time in years, he feels something human: regret. He lowers the gun, turns away, and rushes home in tears. That night, Killian hugs his grandfather tightly, dismantles his weapons, and leaves the bag by the railroad tracks. Back home, he flushes his drugs, takes one final photo of himself, and hangs it on the wall. A man consumed by the dream of being seen. In his mind, he's already famous. One day, he whispers to himself, the world will know my name. And that was the rise and spiral of Killian Maddox, a man who chased greatness until it devoured him whole. If you made it this far, drop a like to keep the story gains coming, and maybe hit subscribe, because the next one might just outflex this.